Good evening, friends. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, and welcome to the 30th episode of Crime and Punishment, the Big 3-0. This is a legal podcast, not a political one. It is the official podcast of the Invictus Law Firm, PA, a criminal defense law firm here in Orlando, Florida, the city beautiful. The website for this law firm is augustusinvictus.com, and that is me, yours truly, the host of this program, and I'm here with my trusty co-host, Tiger Gin. Always a man of few words. So few, in fact, he has not even unmuted his microphone. Tonight, we are going to talk about some hefty cases. I hear you there, Tiger Gin. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I was just stuffing my face for a bit there.
Very professional. The height of professionalism at this show. We are even going to give you the link to the newsletter. No, we're not, because I don't have it here. No, we're not going to give you that. I will, however, give you the link to the viral style, so you can give us some of that delicious t-shirt money, and I can buy a new computer just for this podcast. Because I tell you, I'm sick of this thing going so slow when I'm trying to live stream.
I hear you.
Oh, yeah, on a computer that's meant for typing documents. Anyway, we are live streaming, speaking of which, simulcasting to Twitch, DLive, Periscope, and YouTube. If you look in the description, you will see all of the social media and streaming sites that we are on. And you should go subscribe to those things, because God knows when we're going to get kicked off of which. Who knows? You never know. First thing I'm going to do here, so I'm going to go to the chat. I'm going to see what we've got here. All right, so everybody can hear us, right? Oh boy, this computer speed issue is starting to grate on me.
Do we got a chat going at least? I mean, people hear us?
No idea. We've got a chat going all right, but who knows whether they can hear us or whether they're still listening to the song. Anyway, so we're going to talk about the Charlottesville trial that everyone's talking about in the chat. In fact, let's just start with that. I know this is just a legal, non-political podcast, but if possible, why is Augustus not involved in the Seville trial underway? Excellent question, to quote Jim Rohn, which is why we're starting off with that today, as a matter of fact. The long and short of it is, though I was named as a defendant in the Charlottesville lawsuit going on right now, Sines v. Kessler, I was never actually served with it. No one ever served me with the lawsuit. No one ever tried to serve me with the lawsuit. So I've never been involved with it in any way whatsoever.
Interesting.
Yeah. Everybody's wondering why I'm not there and why I'm not, under the gun getting examined and cross-examined and all the rest, and why I didn't have to go through discovery. It's because they never served me. Never tried to serve me, as far as I know. Just gone. They didn't want anything to do with me. So I'm named in the lawsuit, but they never wanted me there. Anyway, so the New York Times has put out an article about someone who will be testifying at the Charlottesville trial. The headline is, "For Holocaust Scholar, Another Confrontation with Neo-Nazi Hate." Subtitle, "In a Charlottesville courtroom, Deborah E. Lipstadt will testify to the persistence of anti-Semitism and its links to present-day politics." Unfortunately, I don't have a New York Times account, so we're not going to read that article. But I thought you should know what's going on there. The real article we want to read about the Charlottesville trial is just pure gold. This is from Yahoo News. It's actually, I didn't notice this until I looked into the author of this amazing article we're about to read. But it's not actually Yahoo News. Underneath it is a logo of Daily Beast. didn't see that when I first read this, but the headline is "Crying Nazi Hijacks Charlottesville Trial to Rant About Antifa." You can't buy a headline like that. I mean, look, I am not going to talk about the... Tiger, you've got a lot of background noise coming in from your side, buddy.
Oops, sorry about that.
It's all
I'll have to mute a little bit. Let's see what I can do.
So, it says they've mentioned you a couple times during it. That's what Chase says. Yes. Yes. They have mentioned me a few times just in passing. You know, I don't. The thing is, I'm not going to talk about the Charlottesville trial like we talk about other cases because I don't want to affect it. See, when we talk about something like the Rittenhouse trial, who cares? Nobody cares what I have to say about Rittenhouse's trial. When we talk about Arbery, nobody cares what I have to say about that. You know, the jury isn't going to flip out about the podcast that, you know, we're talking about this stuff. You know, if we talk about any trial in America, who cares? Even if they're listening to this podcast avidly, they're going to it's going to be in one ear and out the other. However, if people are listening to this podcast and they are enemies, I guarantee you they're listening to it for one reason and one reason only. So I'm not going to talk about the Charlottesville trial outside of reading this hilarious article, just because I don't want it to affect anyone in any way, good or bad. I will leave it at that. So let's read this comedic gold. Crying Nazi hijacks Charlottesville trial to rant about Antifa. My God. Best headline I've ever seen. You just can't buy publicity like that. I've heard about the job Cantwell is doing. I've heard it's amazing. Somebody in the chat asked whether I've called in on the line. I have. It was one of the days of jury selection, but the problem with being a lawyer is that my schedule is directly in conflict with their schedule, because we're both in court doing lawyer stuff at the same exact time. So it's very difficult for me to call in. I've got to follow up secondhand, where I've got people calling me and telling me what's going on, but I wish I could listen live. I just can't, unfortunately. But I have heard, by all accounts, that Cantwell is taking everyone to task, just absolutely dominating, and God bless him. I've heard Spencer has been doing an excellent job as well, but I haven't been there. I haven't seen it firsthand.
Yeah, and one of the things that I want to get out there, so obviously right now we got two other giant national cases going on at the same time, both of which are being filmed live on TV. And I'm familiar with the conspiratorial nature of the internet, the thinking of it. The fact that this trial is not being broadcast, it's actually normal for most trials. The United States Supreme Court doesn't allow video in. It's all audio only. So just getting that out there in case some people there might be a few people out there that are like, why isn't it being filmed? Lots of judges don't like their courts being filmed, no matter what's going on.
Yeah, the shame is that it's not allowed to be recorded by audio either. And I was really hoping that I could listen to the audio after hours. You know, like, the day is gone, let me listen to the highlights of the day. Or, you know, people would be recording it left and right if they could, but it's only like a live radio program from the courthouse.
And as far as I know, nobody's like live streaming it off of the internet, which would be convenient rather than having to hang around my
illegal
phone or something.
Yeah, something tells me that the feds would not take kindly to that.
Oh my. Okay. All right. Sorry I said anything. I was thinking out loud.
No, if you're listening to this program, please don't do that. And certainly don't tell anyone we told you to do that, because I don't need that kind of headache.
I was running my mouth without thinking. That's all.
Anyway, so we've got this article that I just can't get past the headline because it's so awesome. But let's read this. A white supremacist, right off the bat, you know this isn't actually Yahoo News. This doesn't say opinion piece anywhere on it. This is actually passed off as news. I don't know how many of y'all in the audience used to listen to my program, The Daily Planet, but we would go through articles like this on a daily basis, hence the name of the show. Going through all of the articles, pointing out all of the phrases you can clearly tell that these are not news articles. They are opinions, that every article published in every media outlet in the world has an agenda behind it. Well, right off the bat, the first phrase in this article is, a white supremacist dubbed the Crying Nazi is causing chaos at the Unite the Right trial, hijacking the proceedings to press his personal conspiracies about Antifa. What an opening statement.
Or he's just giving his side of the story. Like, what?
Yeah, this is called news. This isn't Yahoo opinion. This is Yahoo News. Like, they're saying this is actual fact. But yeah, you can't give your side of the story in a trial without Yahoo quote-unquote news coming after you, quoting the Daily Beast. These are conspiracy theories. Midway through, look at this. Midway through neo-Nazi Christopher Cantwell's contentious appearance in court on Monday, a lawyer interrupted with an objection. Amazing. You can't even write a sentence without calling him a neo-Nazi. You can't just say midway through Mr. Cantwell's contentious appearance. You got to say midway through neo-Nazi Christopher Cantwell's contentious appearance, and so on and so forth. 3 guesses as to the ethnicity of the writer of this article. I understand he is pro se, attorney Alex Conlon said, referring to the fact that Cantwell is representing himself, but this is not a podcast. Cantwell, who does indeed host a podcast, is among more than a dozen far-right figures being sued this month for their alleged roles in orchestrating violence at Unite the Right, the deadly 2017 white supremacist rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. Some of those defendants, including Cantwell, are representing themselves in court after being dropped by their attorneys. That means Cantwell, who earned the nickname the Crying Nazi. Do you see the pattern here? Like, you cannot write a paragraph without calling him a neo-Nazi, a crying Nazi, a white supremacist, so on. You can't go more than 2 sentences without engaging in this ad hominem attack. This is passed off as news.
Well, while we're going through this, it says they were dropped by their attorneys. Do you know that happened? I was no. thinking that they were like, screw lawyers, we're going to do this ourselves. That was my thinking.
I actually have no idea. I have not talked with these guys about this. I have kept a very deliberate distance so as not to affect the trial. So I don't know, but given the way the rest of the article is written, something tells me that that's not entirely true. I love this one. Unite the Right, advertised as something like Woodstock 99 for fascists, saw a coalition of white supremacists descend on Charlottesville on August 11th and 12th, 2017. I love that. Woodstock 99 for fascists. Not that we take any political sides, but if you were a fascist, that would be a pretty epic event. Woodstock 99 for fascists. The rally culminated in murder.
Let's try and correct a little something here. I mean, if memory serves, wasn't it full of just regular Republicans like
Woodstock
Trump supporting?
99? No, man. They had 9 Inch Nails. That was actually a really awesome show. I remember watching it in high school. I obviously wasn't there, but I got to see it on TV. Played Happiness and Slavery. That was... Anyway. What an amazing article. That's all I have to say about it. But we do have that second article about jurors in this trial, the Rittenhouse trial, and the Arbery trial.
Yes.
So this would be a good segue into the cases we're really going to discuss. I can't believe we're already 17 minutes into the show. We're a quarter done. We haven't even started. Yep. Era Fascista says, OMG, I missed the fascist Woodstock. Yep. Yep, can't comment on that. Arbery, Unite the Right, Rittenhouse cases show difficulty of finding impartial jurors. Wow. Pull the other one. That's shocking. These 3 cases, all hinging on white supremacy, blown up by the media coast to coast.
By the way,
can't find impartial jurors?
I think there should be like a court rule or something going that only one national trial at a time. This is really hard to follow, all 3 of these things going on at once. At least one of the judges should went, oh, wait a minute, Rittenhouse is going at the same time? I don't want to compete for screen time. We're going to delay this trial.
Something tells me that's not how that would work. Every judge in America, with all due respect to all judges in this country, that being said, all judges believe that their courtroom is the center of the world. That's just the fact of the matter. Every courtroom is its own universe, and there is nothing outside of that universe. Now, there are some judges who will be tolerant of the fact that you're in court that day and you've got hearings in 2 different courtrooms at the same time. Oh, Mr. Smith, Mr. So-and-so will be here, right after he's done with Judge X. Yeah, they'll suffer that. That's about as far as it goes, though. You are on their schedule, period.
Yeah.
The news is on their schedule. National crises are on their schedule. Everything is on the judge's schedule, not yours.
Ghislaine Maxwell's trial is starting jury selection today. Yeah.
Maybe that's why this is all happening, is to cover that up. Get that out of the headlines.
Get all of every important trial going on now. Anyway. Impartial jurors.
So, how do you select an impartial jury when nearly all potential jurors have been exposed to cases that have generated national prominence? This is so meta for something from USA Today. Who is guilty of the fact that all potential jurors have been exposed to cases that have generated national prominence? Who's responsible for that, if not USA Today and their ilk? But that's the first line in this. What an amazingly not self-reflective question to start with. Judges have been in the spotlight in recent weeks with how to accomplish this delicate task in high-profile cases in Brunswick, Georgia, Charlottesville, Virginia, and Kenosha, Wisconsin. In Brunswick, well, that's the Arbery case. Yes. The 12 jurors and 4 alternates include just one person of color, a black man. I suppose I wasn't aware. They already chose the jury.
Yes.
They're already in. Oh, okay.
Today. Yes.
How did the jury become nearly all white? Both sides had a right to use so-called peremptory challenges to strike jurors for any reason at all, so long as the strikes were not based solely on the juror's race, religion, or sex. The defense...
So-called? That's what they're called.
Yeah, that is what they are called. Yeah. So, for the audience, there are 2 types of ways you can kick someone off a jury. One is a cause challenge, and the other is a peremptory challenge. It's not a so-called peremptory challenge. That's what it's called, like Tiger said. A cause challenge is something like, this guy said, nope, I hate cops. I ain't going to trust nothing a cop says. He gets on that stand. This man is not guilty. I know it in my bones. That's a for-cause challenge. That guy ain't going to be on a jury. Conversely, nope, I see him sitting there at that table. He's a criminal defendant. He's got a lawyer. I know he did something. And I don't care what he has to say. If he testifies, like if the cop said he did it, back the blue. Thin blue line. I believe the cops over this guy any day. That's a for-cause challenge. That guy cannot be an impartial juror. Peremptory challenges, on the other hand, that means you strike him for whatever you want. You ever seen The Devil... Tiger? Did you watch The Devil's Advocate yet?
No.
Killing me. What kind of lawyer are you going to turn out to be? Haven't seen The Devil's Advocate.
So I'm probably like the only lawyer who has never watched like a legal movie or TV show or anything. Like my entire understanding of lawyers before I became a lawyer came entirely from The Simpsons. That's what I thought lawyers were like. So
are you saying that's not what lawyers are like?
Yeah, I do want to weigh in here. Georgia actually does these on court TV today. They were calling these peremptory strikes silent strikes because the way that it goes on in Georgia is that they have a piece of paper. The state gets the piece of paper with the list of the jurors on. They just strike out one, literally cross a line through it, and then that same sheet of paper goes to the defense. They get to draw their line through a name. Nobody says a word about anything, and that's how it goes on. And so the way that this happened was that the defense was able to strike 8 blacks without the state raising a single objection. They didn't realize this until it was all done and over. And then they went and were like, wait a minute, these were all blacks. Batson challenge.
Yeah, they have to. Typically, I don't know. It's Georgia. It's not Florida, but the prosecutor is supposed, or both, either side, they're supposed to just at least remark on the record. By the way, for the record, this guy was African American. I actually had that happen to me in a trial once. Hilarious. My client was black. He was a black man on trial. And I struck a juror, and the prosecutor got up and said, I want the record to reflect that the juror just struck by the defense was an African American. like my client's black, you idiot! What's the matter with you? But they're supposed to do that as a matter of course, just to put it on the record, you know. So yeah, the fact that they didn't even notice that's
they
crazy.
Did not notice.
So
and I do want to I want to get out because the news is not reporting it that as far as I can see.
Well, hold on.
Let's
finish with the background on what we're talking about, though, because
all right.
we explained for cause challenges, and then I started hollering at you because you haven't seen The Devil's Advocate. So there's a scene in that movie where they're picking a jury, and he's like, I want to strike this guy, and the old guy lawyer, you know, the hotshot guy from New York, he's like, what are you, crazy? That's my dream juror, like a black guy with dreads. You know, he's a brother. He's gonna be our guy. He's a defense juror. And Kevin goes, no, I see a man who's scared and, you know, makes his own shoes and keeps a gun under his bed. And you don't have to explain any of that to anybody. You just say strike, which I think is another reason for calling it a silent one, even though in Florida you say we strike this guy. It's not technically silent like you're explaining the one in Georgia is, but no, you did not have to give a reason to answer your question, Ronnie. You don't have to give a reason. However, if they object and they say something like, well, look, this is the third African American they've struck, then you might have a problem. Like if you've struck 8 African Americans, everybody's white, you might have a problem there. I don't know, man. I don't know how they did that. But typically, no, you don't have to give a reason to answer that question. All right, so what were you about to say, Tiger?
Okay, so during jury selection, the defense brought up a lot of interesting facts that I don't see anywhere else. I was watching this a little bit live. I got my notes here, so I'm going to try and make this as coherent as possible and not rambling. Defense argues prosecutors were influencing the jury. So
Isn't that their job? To be fair to prosecutors? Isn't that all of our job, to influence the jury?
Well, they were doing it in an interesting way, according to the defense.
Okay.
I've never heard of stuff like this before.
I'm all ears.
All right, so the defense kept referencing an attorney named Lee Merritt, who is not involved in the trial. It sounds like he's a part of Law Twitter, just somebody on there posting stuff on Twitter about the trial. And he specifically posted on his Instagram and Twitter to all jurors, remember this phrase, I can be fair. And defense went on to quote a number of news articles where the prosecutors were being quoted as quoted saying, we're selecting the right people, we're trying to make the right decision, and other quotes indicating bias. And then defense talked about a black voting rights group outside the courthouse with a banner with a URL. If I remember correctly, the banner itself says something like Black Votes Matter or something like that. They're outside the courthouse, a black voting rights group. And defense there, they said, why would a black voting group be interested in this trial? If you go to the URL that was on the banner, the URL tells potential jurors how to get selected and put onto the jury.
I'm amazed it's taken this long for someone to do this, quite honestly.
And they have another quote from the prosecution telling the media, we don't say often enough, yes, I can set aside my biases. And defense, they went on, they were saying, we want to know what is the relationship between this voting rights group, black media, and Lee Merritt in the state. And he was heavily saying that there's some kind of relationship between these people. They're all working together. And he noted that jurors are pulled from voter records. So the black voting rights group continually being in the news about the Ahmaud case is trying to get more blacks in the juries by having them to sign up to vote. He states this to answer, what does a voting rights group have to do with this case? So that was an interesting tidbit there. I mean,
so what was the state's response to that? If they're alleging some sort of connection between these guys, does the state just say, no, I don't know this guy?
Yeah, they were adamantly denying that there was anything to do with them. And they might be right. They probably are right. What I find interesting, though, is that we've seen this since, I'm trying to remember, the Mary Fagan case in Atlanta way back in the early 20th century, where after the trial happened, they were going to appeal. They solicited big media at the time to go and write tons of articles about the case, claiming unfair bias and things like that, in order to influence the entire jury pool, potential jury pool. This is how, this is what they do. This is what the media does to influence juries and judges. They write these articles, they get everything out. So you'll notice in particular with the Ahmaud Arbery case that for the year leading up to this trial, they were all saying, the media was saying, the jogger. Mm-hmm. And now this is literally the state's position. That it was a guy,
until they found out that he actually was called a jogger because of his criminal conduct. And then they wanted to keep that out of the trial.
Yeah, they wanted to try and keep that out of the trial. We haven't actually gotten to opening statements yet, but what I've seen in the jury selection, the questioning and things like that, they're still going with the idea that he was jogging in a sleeveless shirt with his ear pods in and running shoes. I mean, it's a ridiculous narrative that I can't believe anybody is going with.
All
But
right. Well, speaking of ridiculous, let me cut in here and say I completely forgot to do a couple things. Number one is a shout out to Luke, who's responsible for the title of tonight's episode, In GUS We Trust. He recommended that be the law firm's slogan. So we'll take votes on that. Should In GUS We Trust be the law firm's slogan? Also, shout out to Paulie Joseph, asking earlier whether this was on Central Time. Absolutely not. Although I have thought recently about moving back to Chicago. I think that would be stupid at this point, though, from what I understand of what's happened to Chicago. So here is what I meant to interrupt for, actually, was bam. There is the link to the newsletter, so please sign up for that. If this thing ever sends, I will also post the link to the viral style. There we go. Number 1, number 2, and we're off. Let me see. Someone had asked a question, EcoFash Matt, since this is a non-political / legal podcast, what have you been up to, Augustus? On your off time, you're hanging out doing IRL in Tampa with Baked Alaska, or what's what? No, actually, I haven't been to Tampa in a hot minute. As a matter of fact, I need to go back. But no, did he say off time?
yes,
No, he didn't say spare time, right? Okay, yeah, off time. Quite frankly, there are only 4 things in my life. This law firm, my family, religious activities, and training. Outside of that, I have no life. Certainly not to be hanging out, or what was the Bolton phrase? Chilling. My sons say the word chilling, and I just want to strangle them. Spare time, that's what I was thinking about. No, there is no hanging out, no chilling, no spare time. You're training, you're working, you're spending time with your family, because a man can never be a real man if he doesn't spend time with his family. Or you're doing your religious life. Outside of that, what is there, you know? Anyway, so we've got articles we're talking about.
yeah,
What else we got here? We got, Rittenhouse. We got to talk about Rittenhouse.
yes.
So, I don't know what's going on right now, but I do love this article from the Chicago Tribune. Oh, synchronicity there. Chicago Tribune's headline, Kyle Rittenhouse judge stops proceedings, fumes about media criticism. What's really dastardly about this article, I'm not going to post the picture. I'm not even going to post the link so that, like my boycotting Chicago Tribune is going to, stop their ratings or something, but it's just underhanded. It makes you wonder why people haven't been doing this for decades. But it's got a picture of Rittenhouse that's just unflattering would be a charitable word. It makes him look like an idiot.
It's
like
a derp face, what they do to presidents all the time.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Catch them making an ooh sound so that they look like a monkey. They do that with every single president.
yeah, just makes him look dumb. And how much more illegitimate does the media need to get in this country before people just stop paying attention to? Look what we're doing, right? We're commenting on the media. We should just do nothing but national justice articles. Or just
There we go.
do our own research. Let's hire a bunch of our own journalists, Tucker Carlson. Just have them bring in everything to us, and we'll just read all our, it's our own original research at that point. We don't need to read these articles anymore. Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Hey, I try and bring in what original stuff I can. Like that bit that I told you right there. As far as I know, no news media was talking about the supposed relationship between the state and this Lee Merritt and those people. Oh, and real quick, the defense there, he in fact asked the judge to order the Georgia Bureau of Investigation to investigate this relationship, see what's going on. He was dead serious about it.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Well,
I don't know what came of it.
Yeah, I was going to say, did the judge do it or not?
As far as I know, nothing. He didn't seem too impressed by it, and he was just like, you guys are doing the same kind of stuff in your interviews. You know, I don't know.
Yeah. I love when prosecution, cries about a defense attorney going to the media or criminal defendant speaking in his own defense in the media, accusing, you can't even say with a straight face, accusing them of trying to taint the jury pool or intimidate witnesses. Are you kidding me? And, after the hatchet jobs that come out when the prosecution works with the media to completely destroy a person's reputation before the trial, I mean, dead serious, some prosecutors should be put on trial for the things that they do. It's just, the unethical is not the word. It's criminal, the things that they do to defendants.
I've been here just today. I saw a lawyer thinking, he was commenting, it was Andrew Branca again. He was saying about how after this Rittenhouse thing, prosecutorial immunity should probably go away.
Yeah, absolutely. You can say what you want about judicial immunity. I get it. I don't agree, but I understand why they would want judicial immunity. Because a lot of people, they're upset about the outcome. Nobody, unless it's a criminal defendant who walks scot-free, nobody's happy. And even when the criminal defendant walks away scot-free, they didn't really walk away scot-free. Even when they're found innocent, their reputation is destroyed, their family's destroyed, their finances are destroyed.
Yeah.
And if the judge had been making bad calls that entire time, why shouldn't they be sued? So I don't agree with judicial immunity at all. Prosecutorial immunity is just plain stupid. Because, how many, even with the outrageous distortions of reality that we see in the media on literally a daily basis, even with that, how many times has the media itself come out against prosecutors showing, look at the pattern of misconduct all across this country with prosecutors just completely out of control, drunk on power, destroying people's lives, playing games, gambling, buying off people, paying witnesses. How many articles we read just on this program about things like that? So to think that they have sovereign immunity, that they can't be sued when they're this out of control, and there are so many people who are in jail or in prison who are completely innocent, it's not in the interest of justice, this immunity of prosecutors. And I think both sides, left and right, and everybody in between, everybody agrees that this amazing qualified immunity of police is it's unfathomable. Cops can shoot someone right in the face. Immune. Supreme Court keeps upholding it over and over and over again. You can't sue the cops. It's
Oh yeah, and that reminds me. Speaking of cops, immunity, and Kenosha, Wisconsin, the killing that led to those riots, that police officer is not being charged. The police officer who shot this Jacob Blake, not being charged. And it makes sense as best as I can tell. The guy who had a knife and was going after them and was going to get away in his car with a bunch of kids and weapons. Yeah. So that one makes sense to me.
Yeah, true. So I'm going through
and look what happened over that. You go and burn down the city, a bunch of businesses, at least 4 people got shot and killed over a guy with a criminal record in the middle of committing a crime, gonna attack a police officer and gets shot. and now a whole bunch of people died over it. And we got this trial going on.
In the words of that great American poet philosopher, Ricky Bobby, welcome to America, amigo. It's just how it is now. So I was going through the chat, and we got serious question, Augustus. What kind of cases do you take? Civil, criminal, liability, etc. All of the above. All of the marketing here is criminal defense. Like you hear me say at the outset of the show, a criminal defense law firm in Orlando, Florida. So when you're in business, you have to limit what you market. You have to focus on something, right? I do criminal defense. I've always done criminal defense. My father was a criminal defense attorney. I did, even before I started practicing law, I was in international criminal law in academics, in the academic world. So criminal law, I was raised by a criminal defense lawyer. Like, this is, I have undisputed background in criminal defense and undisputed victories over and over and over in criminal defense. That being said, I do, business litigation, contract litigation, business formation, personal injury, family law. I've done general practice. I used to do general practice. But yeah, you do pretty much anything, but we focus on criminal defense. That's the very long answer to all of the above, EcoFash Matt. And this is why. So there's a lot that goes behind an answer like that. Someone said, this smart aleck, if you knew how bad things really are, as the name of this person said, you don't get found innocent, you get found not guilty. Are you even a lawyer? Yeah. Touche. Well played. Let's see. Judge Schroeder in the Rittenhouse case gave the jury yesterday a law school class on the hearsay rule using St. Paul as an example. It made the usual people furious. Did you hear about that, Tiger?
I must have missed that. I mean,
using St. Paul as an example. I would love to see that. That's
right.
This guy, man. This is the same judge who said that these people literally chasing Rittenhouse down the street, they cannot be called victims. The 3 people who were shot cannot be called victims.
Crime. Lawandcrime.com. It's actually in the Bible. Kyle Rittenhouse's judge explains hearsay rule to jury by talking about trials of St. Paul the Apostle. He's getting old school here. This is how we used to do it.
Yeah.
The judge overseeing the intentional homicide trial of Kyle Rittenhouse led the jury on a sojourn into biblical history while talking about the roots of hearsay law in the state of Wisconsin. The issue arose when lead prosecutor Thomas Binger played a video that contained an audio track. In the recording, a narrator from the rundown live indicated that he was present at the time of the recording with a bunch of militia in Wisconsin and described the vandalism of a car dealership the previous day. Defense attorney Mark Richards said the track contained editorialization and should neither have been played nor continue to be played before the jury. Binger said both parties had consented to the authenticity of the recording. He said the person who made the recording could easily be subpoenaed for confrontation purposes, which is what concerned Judge Bruce Schroeder. Without mounting much of an argument under the rules of evidence, Binger said he would simply play the recording and turn up the volume when Rittenhouse himself spoke. The words of a defendant are admissible at trial even if a defendant does not testify. Schroeder seemed satisfied with the proffered resolution, but proceeded to lead the jury through a historical retelling of the genesis of modern evidence rules. The jury was present for the entire discussion about the recording despite Binger's multiple requests to approach the bench or handle the discussion in another manner. The judge told the jury that said he studied evidence last century and sought a prop of printed materials to describe the thickness of his evidence law book from law school. He said the big picture lesson was that the hearsay rule was the most murky portion of the rules of evidence. As if teaching a law school course, he went on to explain why. The judge correctly stated that the hearsay rule contains both exclusions and exceptions. He then discussed why the rules say what they do. So some things that may seem to the untrained ear to be hearsay are not, and some things that don't seem like it are, he said. Hearsay, the judge summarized, is a rule which says that a statement of a non-testifying person cannot be offered to prove the truth of the matter which is asserted in the statement. In other words, a statement introduced into evidence has to be under oath, it has to be subject to cross-examination, and that's not true of statements that are made by somebody who's not here while testifying as a witness. So this person who's describing this, Schroeder said of the person in the video, is not subject to the rules of the court. Therefore, the statements cannot be used as evidence. Schroeder was taking the long way around to admonish the jury that it should not rely on the brief statements it heard in the video. Then came the biblical monologue. This is actually referred to in the Bible. St. Paul, when he was put on trial in, I think it's Caesarea, well, it's over in Palestine, in Israel, he was accused of some activity, and he was a Roman citizen, which is not common, but he happened to have been a Roman citizen. So he had rights that we share now as Americans. And he, when they tried to put him on trial with evidence from, which was being repeated by somebody who wasn't there and under oath, he said, "Where are the witnesses against me? I am a Roman and I have a right to confront my accusers. They should be here." And so that led to actually his voyage to Rome to have his case heard before the emperor. It's so ancient a rule, it's strictly enforced in the criminal courts for very obvious reasons. So that's what we're talking about here. And if the person who is making this descriptive material is here and can be put under oath and can be cross-examined, then it's admissible. But otherwise, it's not admissible through the officer here.
Bro, I have literally never, ever heard a judge take such pains to explain anything to anyone. I can't believe that's a transcript.
Yeah, that's
I thought maybe he made some like offhand comment about St. Paul said something about hearsay and move on. That's incredible that he took that, because all those jurors, their eyes probably glazed over. They have no idea what he said. It was like, okay, I just want to see the video, bro.
Sorry about that. I mean, I was just reading it, and for
and you know
the
that,
audience,
like,
he's quoting Acts 25.
Oh, thank you for that.
Acts 25.
So after, like, he says this whole, law school lecture, and then they're going to play the video, and I guarantee you at least half the jurors are going to say, "Wait, dude, why did we hear that dude? Why do we hear Rittenhouse talking, but nobody else was talking, dude?" I guarantee you half the jury is going to have that same question. Why didn't we hear anybody else but Rittenhouse? Seriously,
I'm taking note
trial
of this
by
now.
combat. Trial by combat.
Yes.
We need to get rid of the jury system. It is broken.
Yes. I'm remembering this, though. Acts 25, if I ever have to argue about hearsay.
Well, being in Georgia, you're in a good place to do it, man.
Oh, yeah.
Anabolic Insurrection is the name of this YouTube commenter. I love the name. Wish I had time to tune in more often, Augustus. Is your content available elsewhere? Gumroad, perhaps. Anabolic Insurrection, I'm going to keep saying your name because it's awesome. If you look in the description, we have all of our social media links, and I think DLive and Twitch and whatever else we're simulcasting on right now. I've never heard of Gumroad until your comment, so I will look into that before next week's show, and we'll see what we can do there. Let's see. The DA should feel ashamed, says Dead Thomas the Tank Engine. Yeah, he should. This is amazing, the trials going on right now.
Yeah.
Just unbelievable that this could happen in America. For all of us growing up, or who grew up in the Cold War, this is unbelievable. Like, you could not have told me that this, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, that this could ever happen. Just impossible.
And I mean, the charges against Rittenhouse first-degree murder. I mean, like, how's that?
They have a
past the
tape.
Probable cause here.
I've seen the tape. They're chasing him down the street. First-degree murder.
Falls to the ground. Oh, I mean, and I mean, if you were watching the trial, I mean, he brought his main witness to this point was the reporter who was there for, like, literally right there when Rittenhouse had to shoot Rosenbaum. And it's like why even cross-examine this guy? Like, he's Rosenbaum going for Rittenhouse's weapon, and it's like, that's imminent threat of
Imagine that
force.
one of these quote-unquote rioters on January 6th had run after a cop and tried to take his weapon. And the cop shot him in the bicep with, or shot him in the face and killed him. Would that be first-degree murder? I mean, the media would be all over what a hero this guy was. And in fact, they were just a couple months ago when they held this congressional circus, putting these four cops up there about how it's a medieval battle,
And during the direct examination, it was actually direct of this. The reporter's name is Richard McGinnis. So I'll read like this paraphrase here. The prosecution. So Rittenhouse shot Rosenbaum as he was falling, correct? No, Rittenhouse didn't fire until Rosenbaum charged and lunged at him. So he shot him as he was falling. No, not falling, lunging. So you're saying he shot him while he was falling. No, that's not my testimony. Lunging.
Incredible. That's Binger?
Yeah. It's awful. It is so awful. And
if Rittenhouse is convicted, what can you even say anymore? What can you even say? The fact that people like this, these prosecutors are not disbarred when they pull stunts like this, is testament enough to how corrupt this profession has become.
And like I said, I would even pin this on the judges. How does that get past a probable cause hearing? I mean, like, yeah.
Well, there were 3 people dead, and
it's like probable cause for anything, but it's just like, where first degree murder, like, where can you show a plan? Because the first degree murder, that was not for I could almost see it where there wasn't a recording when he shot Rosenbaum, but they're charging him for recklessness there. The first degree murder is for when he was being attacked in the street and flat on his back. It was for those shots. Like, where's the planning? Like,
well, wasn't Chauvin convicted of both voluntary and involuntary killing?
Yes.
So if Chauvin can attain a superpower like that, I'm sure Rittenhouse could do something similar.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna plan to kill these guys as I get knocked to the ground.
So we are over time, and I'm going to be late to bed.
Okay.
By at least 5 minutes now. So let me just go through these comments and we'll end the show. My state, this Dead Thomas, the Tank Engine, my state allows the bar to be taken by those without law school. Would you recommend that to someone who's interested in taking the test?
That's California, right?
Well, I assume it's California. He didn't say what California.
One of the states. Yeah,
right. I think there's more than one.
2 or 3. It's like very few.
Right. But you can have an apprenticeship, take the bar after, I think it's like 7 years or 5 years, somewhere around there. Quite honestly, unless you've already been a paralegal or an apprentice or whatever for 5 or 7 years, whatever the requirement is in your state, why not just go to law school? I mean, I know it's a bunch of debt and it's 3 years of hell, but honestly, the bar is kind of an afterthought. The real value in becoming a lawyer is law school. That's how you learn how to think. Formal logic as well. Like, it blows my mind people don't know formal logic. I see people making arguments, and I just have to walk away. I'm like, this is just sloppy. Even lawyers who have not taken formal logic, lawyers make arguments that are just plain stupid. And you just throw your hands up and walk away, because the state of legal education these days is just atrocious. But
I was fortunate. I took formal logic when I was in university, and
same.
And I read everything of Aristotle too. So it's
yeah, and that's the point. Like, it's the education that matters. The bar exam.
But for this guy, he should make sure, depending on what state, from what I've heard too, is that even in those states where you're not required to take the bar, you're going to be taking the state bar, but then also like the MBE maybe, or one of those more national ones. And those are geared towards people who went through law school.
Yeah, because you can study. I mean, the trick to those is studying the answers. You just study the questions, study the answers, and you do it maniacally. But it's going to be all gobbledygook. It'd be like studying Chinese if you haven't been to law school. But I guess, I mean, it can be done. You know, Frank Abagnale did it, right? Studied for 2 weeks, passed Louisiana bar. Although, word of caution, Louisiana bar is civil. We have common law, so it's a little different. But I don't know, man. I guess it depends on your motives, Dead Thomas the Tank Engine.
What I always tell people whenever they're looking, the four traditional professions: doctor, lawyer, priest, soldier. Without going into my rant on professions, what I always tell people whenever they're looking to go into one of those things is only do it if you cannot be convinced otherwise, because the professions, they consume your life. That it's a big calling and a lot of demand, a lot of work. It takes up your entire life, your entire day. It's not a 9 to 5. It's a big
definitely
deal.
not a job. It's a life, you know?
Yeah.
So it depends on what you want to do with your life, I suppose, Dead Thomas the Tank Engine. Like, do you want to be a lawyer, or do you just want to have the bar exam under your belt? Because I don't know, the test itself is kind of a waste of time. It's just like it's kind of like an initiation for lawyers. Just, you know, like you go into the Navy SEALs and they punch the trident into your chest, like, you know, or that you get into a fraternity and they do whatever, make you drink 500 beers. I don't know. It's the bar exam has absolutely nothing to do with the legal profession or the practice of law. It's just one of those things. It's a hoop you jump through to say you're a lawyer, basically. In all seriousness, Augustus, this is EcoFash Matt. Any chance of fireside chats in the future? Miss that energy, truth, and alpha male stuff. This is a family program. Can't use the profanity. But the fireside chats have always been for political campaigns. We here at Crime and Punishment love Big Brother as much as the next guy. We have no interest in politics. I don't have any fireside chats planned, to be quite honest. I do have a book or two planned. Nothing as crazy as The Witch's Sabbath, that's for sure. I'll have to talk about some of that stuff later. Plus, I'm going to be 10 minutes late for bed. This is going to throw my entire weekend off. Let's see. Augustus, do you have an official schedule for when your shows will take place? When is your next show going to be? This is from Thought Criminal. Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, it's supposed to be every Wednesday. We were doing every Monday, but then we never get past a certain ceiling of listeners or views, rather, on YouTube or whatever. So I had a friend, also an attorney, say, look, man, Monday is just a brutal day. I can't listen on Mondays, dude. Just do it a different day of the week. The only day Tiger and I could both do is Wednesday. However, we're also both fathers. And, dude, we just couldn't do last week. Yesterday was just, I had to get something filed Like, this is not our job. We're not Nick Fuentes's, you know, like we've got real work to, like, we're grown men, you know, we're not boys in our mom's basement, like, doing the show. But Thought Criminal, I promise you, man, I really want to get this thing back on track. We used to do every Monday at 8 p.m. on the dot, religiously. And I just, dude, we've had a lot going on the past several months. And, yeah, I've been called out. 100% spot on criticism. I've been inconsistent with this show. And that is going to be a future strength of ours. We're going to get this show back on track. Yep. Off topic, but what are your thoughts on Bronze Age mindset, Augustus? I have no thoughts on that. We're late for bed. Let's keep going. FYI, Augustus, I didn't get a reminder for the show tonight. I get them for all the other reminders I have set for other channels. Yeah, that's Brian West. I am shadow banned on every outlet there is. They just haven't booted me. Knock on wood. But that's the nature of shadow bans, unfortunately. But let's end on a positive note. Tiger, do you have any positive notes? Come on, man. You gotta have some kind of positive note.
I don't know. Like, no. Well, okay. So, I don't know. So far, it's looking like the Rittenhouse thing is good, I guess. Yeah, like so far. I don't know. Put me on the spot.
Yeah.
I didn't come with positive news. I came with legal news.
You know, it's funny we scheduled this for today because earlier today at high noon, there was a red mass. Are you familiar with the red mass?
No, I'm not.
All right. So a red mass is something developed in the 13th century in France, was adopted by the English, and this is before King Henry VIII, so they were still Catholic, you know. So the red mass, at the start of Parliament, all the judges would don red robes, go over to the church, and they would have a mass with the priests and the judges all in red robes. And it was a mass for lawyers and judges and public service. Yeah, so we have that here in Orlando.
No way.
Yeah,
no way.
The bishop himself presides. The bishop of the Orlando diocese presides over the mass, and all the judges were there. This was today. I don't know if I mentioned that. All the judges from Orange and Seminole, all the counties around here were there. It was a
all of them,
huge
even if
event.
they weren't Catholic?
Yes, there were non-Catholic judges there, but that's okay. Nobody's judging. But yeah, it was a huge event. It was a huge event. So yeah, that's a positive, right? That's positive.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because everybody there, they, you know,
if I can get to one of those.
They had all the attorneys in the room, myself included, stand up and renew our vows. I guess that's not the right word. renew our. What's the word I'm looking for?
Oath.
Yeah, it's renew our oath. Is that what that is what we did? We renewed our oath to the Florida bar oath, whatever. So that was a huge event. That's pretty positive. So we'll end on that. So, all right. We'll check in with y'all next week. We'll get this show back on track. I'm now going to be 15 minutes late for bed, but we'll check in with you guys next week. Thank you all for tuning in. Remember to get fit, learn to fight, stay in school, eat your vegetables, and we will see you next week, everybody. Good night.